and welcome to the Sports Porch Black and Gold Edition. I am your hockey Jesus, and I will be the man with all the answers for the Pittsburgh Steelers after that debacle in Baltimore. With me, I've got the Grand Schwab Beanie, and TD's on vacation, so he might look a little haggard, but that's only because he's chilling out down somewhere south at a undisclosed location. Did I say that right?
You sure did.
Yeah, I think you did. Undisclosed location.
What's up, boys? How's it going? The little Christmas Eve sports porch. How do you like it?
Yeah, I love Eve, man. I love Eve. That was yesterday.
The eve of the eve.
Mm-hmm.
So theoretically,
that's why we couldn't do it, because Hockey Jesus this time of year has got a lot of people that want his attention.
A lot of religious commitments.
That's right. So,
Yeah.
so that's why we're looking live at 1:00 today, and we're still going to go over the regular old banner. What else? What else do you think we got going on today? Well, today we got going on some hockey. That's right. The Pittsburgh Penguins are actually pretty friggin' hot, so that's good. Can't wait to talk about some of the Pittsburgh Penguins. And hey, hopefully you're around. I can't tell. Are anybody in the comments down there, boys? Not yet?
Nope, not yet.
All right. No big deal. Let's get on to the Baltimore game.
Yeah, let's do that.
The Pittsburgh Steelers lose in Baltimore. How is it that we can lose in Baltimore and still have the division available for us to win? Can any of you guys explain that to me?
Well, it would be a better regular season up to the minute.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think any of us thought we'd be. I mean, in the beginning of the year, I think we all predicted like 9-8. So one of us may have predicted 10-7.
I predicted 10-7.
Okay, so we're already at least 10 wins.
Right.
So I think this, and they clinched a playoff berth. So to me, this season right now is a success.
Oh,
well,
totally. Well,
I don't know about that. I mean, what happens if they lose a playoff game? Is it a success?
Well, I'm talking about like at this minute, the season has been a success.
Okay, well, I agree with that.
And they clinched a playoff game, so we know they're going to at least give us a chance to debate that after their first playoff game.
Yeah,
Correct.
That's true. I think it has been a success to date, but let's face it. These last two games have not been good for the Steelers. And that's why I just put down in a ticker 2 losses in a row. Is it time to panic, Mark?
Well, I think it may be because we got the Chiefs coming in, and they're a handful. They're 14-1. That's a problem. So if they're not able to win that game, you could be looking at, not winning the division, which could mean a road playoff game.
Right.
And then, I think the other side of the coin really, which unfortunate for the Steelers, which doesn't really speak to how well they played this season, is the health issues. How good is, I hear George Pickens is going to play tomorrow. But, if he does, how much has he got? Joey Porter's banged up. TJ Watt's banged up. And if those guys aren't playing at, close to 100%,
right,
that really hurts, any chances that the Steelers have to go deep into the playoffs, I think.
Yeah, what do you think there, TD? Do you think it's time to panic?
No, I don't think it's time to panic at all. They've clinched a playoff berth. The first season with Russell Wilson, Justin Fields, and all of the drama that was going on as the season began, with Russ being hurt with the calf injury, and people arguing over should Fields. I still get them confused. I don't know why.
Wilson Fields.
Should Wilson Fields
quarterback, that guy, Wilson Fields.
Yeah. So no, the bottom line is I don't think it's time to panic. I do think the Steelers have some issues going into this game with Kansas City that we'll get to. And I do think there are some decisions that have to be made because of the injuries that you got to think about. How badly do you want to win the division?
Right.
How much sense does it make? And then there's the other side of the injuries. If you rest players because you've already clinched a playoff spot, if you keep a guy like Pickens out, when you do bring him back in, when he is 100%, is he still completely in football shape? I mean, you would think he is in the middle of the season.
Right.
But that's where I come down on this. How much risk do you put on continuing to play a player who has an injury that he's still recovering from and he's not 100% when you've clinched a playoff spot? How badly do you want to win the division? And if I'm trying to get inside Mike Tomlin's head, which is almost impossible for anyone, I think he wants to win the division.
Yeah.
Sure.
I think it gives them a better chance at winning the first game, although it's really hard to say. I mean, they could end up, if they would rather host a game. Let's put it that way.
Mhm.
You rather would want to host a game in Pittsburgh versus it going on the road, even if you have to play against Houston, who's now also banged up pretty badly in their wide receiver core. I still think you want to play that game at home as a playoff game. I truly believe that. I think that's why they're playing George. Hey, George did say that he's ready to go. He's just waiting for the doctors to give him the okay. Right. So that probably means he's feeling good, but that doesn't mean that he's going to be able to play a full game because he gets out there and starts running on it. He could easily re-aggravate it again once he starts going full speed. I think that's probably the bigger issue. Can he play the game and can he actually finish the game? But we won't know that till tomorrow at about 1:35.
Yeah, I think one big thing we did learn, and are we going to go down good, bad, and ugly here? Because
I got it. It's right there. Let's talk about it.
We're going to do good, bad, and ugly from the Ravens game.
If you can remember that far back, and if you can remember any good for that matter, because I know I had to go back and look.
Yeah, I did
go ahead,
too.
Schwab, you go first. Go ahead.
Yeah, I had to go back and look too, because there really wasn't a lot of good.
But let's start with the good anyway. So
but I will, I'll give you a good. I think Patrick Queen came to play against his former team. He was all over the field. I think he led the team in tackles. So I think he's steadily gotten better over the course of the years. He's gotten more familiar with the defense. So I'll give Patrick Queen a game ball.
All right. That sounds good. How about you, TD?
My good, believe it or not, was the defense did, force a turnover, or did they have two? That's what I can't remember. They had an interception. Lamar's fourth.
Yeah, I don't think they got those fumbles that hit the ground. So.
Right. But that interception was timely. I mean, it never mind the fact that Russ immediately threw an interception or down the field threw an interception, but the fact that, Baltimore was driving, Lamar Jackson is really having a tremendous year as a throwing quarterback. Nobody can deny that now. But they do pick up that interception. That was the play that could have turned the whole game around, aside from the Russ fumble, which would probably be in the bad or the ugly somewhere. But I think I don't want to. I'm not going to say that the defense played well because Derrick Henry ended up running all over them. But that's what the Ravens want to do. They want to have a lead and then they want to hand the ball to Henry because he truly is an unstoppable guy. Once that train leaves the station, it's not coming back. So that's really the multifaceted attack that they have. And I think the Ravens are going to be tough in the playoffs. I really do. They broke the curse of losing to Pittsburgh and playing like complete slop. It looked in the beginning of the game like they were going to. And now that monkey's off their back, if I'm the Ravens, I've got nowhere to go but up from here. So my good was the defense did get a timely turnover. We just couldn't capitalize on it.
Yeah, I wanted to go there with the defense too because, Minka finally got an interception. I thought that was good, but they had just so much bad play on the defense. I just can't feel like I can give anybody on the defensive side a ball. And I know this might not be a popular pick, But I have to tell you, even though Russell Wilson made mistakes, I just love his poise.
Yeah.
He just doesn't seem like a quarterback that gets phased by fumbling the ball or even throwing a pick six. He's always ready to get back out there and do it again no matter what. And I think that's going to help them in the playoffs when maybe they're down by 7 or 10 points. I think he has the ability to bring them back when he has the right weapons. Clearly, he did not have the right weapons in Baltimore. So I know people are going to probably think that this is the dumbest pick, but I think Russ Wilson still is the guy that's got to do it for us. And I believe in Russ, and I think he's the guy that pretty much deserves any accolade, if there was any at all, during that Baltimore game. How about the bad, Mark? There was plenty of bad to go around. What was your worst bad?
I'm gonna. This will be interesting because it's the exact opposite of your good.
Yeah,
I'm gonna go Russell Wilson, and not because I'm unhappy with him. I think he's doing a really good job for the Steelers, and I think he's elevated their quarterback play to the point where they're a much more dangerous team. I think he's having a very good year, but in this particular game, there were 2 back-breaking plays.
Yeah.
And they were his fumble and his interception. And they were, both of those, I believe anyway, completely his fault. When the fumble, he had a vision that he was still young again and was trying to get into the end zone. And the interception was just a bad throw. So I'm going to say the bad Russell, but I say that half-heartedly because I do believe they also wouldn't even have been in the game without him.
Yeah, and honestly, that interception to me was a lot worse than the fumble. The fumble, he's trying to make a play, So I'm okay with that. He's got to be aware if a guy's going to hit him on the left side, just move the ball over to the other side. Seemed like it should have been smart enough for him to do that. But that pass, he's throwing it to Pruitt out in the flat. What is Pruitt going to get? 6 yards, maybe? That's just that was to me could be my ugly, honestly. Okay, TD, what do you got there as far as your bad?
Well, I think the bad was, unfortunately, it was also the defense. But there's an asterisk by that because everybody in the secondary was getting hurt. So, or wasn't playing. Joey Porter got hurt again. Dante Jackson was out. So, I think you just push that forward and hope that everybody can come back and play healthy by the time the playoffs start. I think the running game was bad. I did not see a whole game plan here again. I don't like it. Yeah. I think that, yes, Baltimore has one of the top run defenses in the league. But, the whole idea is to keep the ball out of Lamar Jackson's hands. That's the whole idea. And to me, that doesn't seem like a very complicated idea. And I felt like when Russ, so I guess my bad really is the offense total, because when I don't want to assign it to Russ like Mark did, I have the same feelings about Russ that Mark has. But, when you see Russell Wilson and he's running down the field, and right at that moment, where you could tell it was in his head. It was like there was a little cartoon bubble above his head, and you could see what he was thinking.
I'm going to score. I'm going to score.
Go for it. Yeah, and that little bit of hesitation is kind of where he lost, the control of the ball, where he forgot that it wasn't him that had to get in the end zone. It was the ball. And I think that showed a little bit of, as composed as he is, he's a veteran quarterback. He's gonna play that way. I think that showed that he was actually a little rattled in this game because of the pressure. And the pressure was, we always beat the Ravens. And they get out there for a couple series, and it's like, it doesn't look like this is going to be easy. And he's trying to make a play that he shouldn't have been trying to make.
Right.
He should have slid and then given them 3 or 4 chances to get points on the board. But on top of that, we didn't establish anything in the line of scrimmage. Russ was kind of running for his life most of the game.
Yeah.
And I feel like our offensive line has taken a step or two back. Now, of course, they've played 2 games in a row against 2 of the best defensive lines in football. But that's what you have to look forward to. Now you're going to play Kansas City, also one of the top defenses in football. And you're going to limp into the playoffs with an offensive line that is starting to regress and not stepping up to the plate. So I would actually give my bad to the offensive line. There you go. How's that?
I think you gave a bad to everybody on the offense.
Yeah.
So we're just going to leave it at that. Hey, by the way, thanks for leaving me with the easiest bad of them all. Their defensive run stopping was just horrible.
Well,
I mean, you cannot give up over 200 yards rushing to any. I don't care. I know it's Lamar Jackson. I know it's Derrick Henry. But you can't give up. If you want to call yourself an elite defense, you cannot give up more than 200 yards rushing ever. That to me was the reason why the Steelers fell apart. I think Lamar Jackson only had something like 202 yards passing. He didn't have a lot of pass yards. He made some clutch plays for sure, and a lot of those was because we're trying to cover Zay Flowers with Patrick Queen, which is once again another just dumb thing to try and do. So I'm definitely giving my bad to the run stopping on the defensive side. I agree with you that Patrick Queen did have a pretty good game, but overall, when you give up more than 200 yards rushing, that's going to allow Baltimore's offense in this case, and any offense for that matter, to be able to do whatever they want because they're getting 7 yards every time they can run the ball. So that's where my bad goes. How about the ugly, Mark? There's also plenty of ugly to go around.
Well, again, you just gave me a lead in because my ugly was going to be the rush defense. Well, and here's what I found. To be honest, here's what I find to be a little bit more concerning about the rush defense is they were able to stop Saquon Barkley last week.
Right.
So what happened this week?
Exactly.
What was the plan that we're not going to be as concerned with the running back because they should have been, right?
I think maybe let me answer that for a second.
Yep.
I actually think because they held Derrick Henry in check the first time, they felt like if they run the same thing out there, the same thing will happen. And Baltimore had something for them this time, which was we're just going to continue to run Derrick Henry. And when in the first game, they stopped running him altogether. So I think that was smart by Baltimore. So go on.
Yeah. Now, the one that I would have given the ugly to, but then he redeemed himself. I was definitely thinking ugly for Minkah Fitzpatrick this week.
Yeah, right.
But then he got the interception, so he kind of redeemed himself. But that first touchdown to Isaiah Likely, he was like, that was an ugly play.
That was so ugly. He just stood there while he went by him,
right.
And he was wide open in the end zone for a touchdown. And now it's early in the game too, so I still think you can call that ugly for sure. Yeah. Okay, TD, give us your ugly.
Well, I'm going to say the ugly was the entire game plan all the way around because, just like Mark just said, it looked like they almost didn't care about Derrick Henry. The secondary is the reason that Minkah got caught is because with the injuries, and you heard it on the broadcast, he has to play closer to the line now, which is actually more in his wheelhouse. And wouldn't you know, he ends up with an interception. And so that leads you to believe, maybe it's not a Minkah problem. They just don't have the right guy as the other safety that can complement Minkah's game. And I think that's really the issue here. That's my opinion. The offensive game plan, it's obvious now, obvious to me. I know it's been obvious since George Pickens was sat down because of injury, but it's obvious to me that they really have absolutely nothing beyond George Pickens at receiver. I mean, literally zero. Calvin Austin had a nice catch for 30 plus yards, but you're not going to rely on that to win football games. And
No.
Mike Williams had a couple catches, but nothing that made a big difference. And Van Jefferson, and once again, Pat Freiermuth did not figure into the middle of the field very much.
Well, don't forget about Skowronek. He went out injured also.
Well, yeah, I know we were joking about that during the game, of course, but the point is that the Steelers, and this goes back to what we talked about last week when Mark mentioned this is an Omar Khan problem. And this is the thing that you can't rebuild a team completely in 1 year.
Right.
So they've done a good job of putting an offensive line together now that is growing and showing signs. They did a good job bringing in a veteran quarterback who can command the offense. We can talk about the defense and their paycheck all day long, but what they did not do was give any thought at all, in my mind, before the season started to who do we have that can complement George Pickens, because it is just bad. I mean, Russell Wilson is, he's performing great given the fact that he has absolutely no receivers.
Yeah.
Well, here's the other thing to add to that too, which I don't understand. I mean, it's pretty clear to me that beyond George Pickens, you've got one other player who is a player, who's Freiermuth.
Right.
I don't understand why he's not targeted. Now, look, it's nice that Pruitt caught a touchdown pass, okay? But why are we giving more targets to Pruitt or even a target or two to Mount Washington and not putting 6, 7, 8 targets on Freiermuth, especially when Pickens isn't in the game?
Right.
I mean, sometimes I think we're trying to spread the ball around so much. You just got to give it to your best players more often. And so I actually think that Arthur Smith really didn't have a great game plan at all this week.
Yeah, and he didn't target Kyle Pitts when he was down in Atlanta either, and everybody kind of questioned that. I think he looks at the tight end position as a commodity, whether it's Hayward or whether it's Pruitt or whether it's Washington or whether it's Freiermuth. He thinks that all those guys are the same, and they're not. To your point, Mark.
Exactly. Yeah,
they're not
right.
all the same. So
you're right.
he
thinks they're interchangeable.
He does, and I think that's a flaw in his system. And as far as the secondary wide receiver, I've said this before in the past. I'm going to continue to say it. I'll beat this horse until it's dead. They really thought that Roman Wilson, the wide receiver from Michigan, was going to be their guy. And when he hadn't been able to play one down, then that just blew their whole season up, which leads to my ugly. My ugly, and I've said this 1,000 times, is the Steelers' inability to have their team conditioned to the point where they can't get injured and they can't be on the field. And they addressed this in the offseason. They went out and got a guy specifically to have a great conditioning. And what has it done? Same old, same old. Here we are at the end of the season, and we still have an injured reserve list that's worse than our starting list. And that's just a problem with the Steelers right now. And it's not necessarily specific to the Steelers. There are a lot of teams that have injury problems. Houston, with that Tank Dell injury. Did you see, by the way, they went and got Deontay Johnson. They picked him up off of waivers.
I did see that.
Yeah, they're going to be very, very happy.
Yeah, I'm sure he's going to fill right in for Tank Dell.
What's his fourth? Is it his fourth team this year?
Let's see. Third. It's his third. Yeah.
Carolina to the Ravens to but who cares about Deontay Johnson? He must have been an absolute ridiculous jerk for the Steelers not to even consider bringing him back. Because he's got skills. He's got skills. He's just an asshole.
Well, sometimes you have to be able to fit in, and I think that's the problem with Williams for us. They got him. I think he's a good talent, but I think he just doesn't fit into the scheming that the Arthur Smith offense plays. Except for the one pass, he caught for a touchdown that won the game for us. I believe that was against the Jets. So
hey, let's say Merry Christmas to Rhoda. She's watching. My buddy Jeff in York found us.
Rhoda.
Hey, Rhoda, Jeff,
if,
Merry Christmas.
If you're just joining us, I guess we would call this our special Christmas Eve show.
Our
Steve
gala.
Steve, our gala. It's so festive. Steve had a commitment last night. I'm out of town, so we're gonna, I guess we're gonna preview the KC game here. But I'll drop the podcast later this afternoon for everybody watching on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcast, Spotify, or anywhere you get your friggin' podcasts. There's a pirate ship right outside. I'm not kidding. There's a pirate ship right outside out here.
Do they have any good baseball players?
But there are a lot of people yelling and screaming and doing this on it all the time.
I'm the captain now.
Yeah. I'm captain now. Anyway.
You're making that up, right?
No, I'm not.
No, we believe you that. We believe
you.
We don't need visual evidence.
We don't need to see the pirate ship.
I can't give you the visual. You wouldn't be able to see it with this camera, but it went out for a cruise this morning and came back in right before the show, and everybody was hammered.
I got it now. Okay, let's move on to this week's games. How can the Steelers beat Kansas City to keep the division title hopes alive? Mark, do you have the magic formula for the Pittsburgh Steelers?
Knock out Pat Mahomes.
Yeah, right. That's a good one. That's a good start. Yep. Tackle him the ankles, right?
Right. Well, in all seriousness, though, I do believe you have to get pressure on Patrick Mahomes. And look, I mean, you got a very good defensive line. So you got some guys who can rush the passer. You need to rush the passer, and you need to get some strip sacks. You need to get them turning the ball over. I think you got to win this game because of the defense. The offense is going to struggle, I think, simply because the Chiefs have a very good defense. Look, I mean, it's great that Pickens is coming back, but he's going up against McDuffie, who's one of the better corners in the league. Right. And they've got some really good linebackers. And, of course, you got Chris Jones. Right. So the Chiefs are going to hold you to, it's probably somewhere between 16 and 24 points. If you get to 24, you got a shot to win the game. If you don't, you probably don't.
So you're hoping for 8 field goals from Boz? Is that what it is?
Yeah, like it should be like a touchdown and like 4 field goals.
Yeah. Because I think you're right. I think that's a good way to go about it. They got to control the ball. What do you think there, TD? You got any extra insight?
They have to have a better game plan. I mean, yes, Pat Mahomes. Yes, it's the Chiefs. What I think is interesting about the Chiefs is what everybody thinks is boring, which is, and I've seen on our little text string during games, the last game, I think, HJ, you were saying, are you watching this shit? And it's incredible. It's tough to watch. Well, that's Andy Reid football. It's dink and dunk all the way down the field. It's take what you can get. They don't have Tyreek Hill anymore, Right. So the Chiefs are incredibly good at, and Patrick Mahomes is incredibly good at identifying that check down or the little out pattern or the close inside slant pattern. And he's okay with getting 6 yards and then 6 yards because that's a first down. Yeah. And they're okay with keeping the ball out of the other team's hand, which is why their defense is so good. Because, Chris Jones is a disruptive force, but he's on the back end of his career. Karlaftis is a good linebacker, but they're fresh. That defense is fresh the whole game. So once again, we've got to have now the fact that Pickens is going to play is a good thing because now they have the game plan for him. That may loosen up the running game. Let's get the running game going. I don't care if Najee only gets 2 yards a run through the first quarter. Ball control. That's how they're going to win this game on offense. On defense, I mean, who doesn't say that you got to get pressure on Patrick Mahomes? The question is, when you get pressure on Patrick Mahomes, what does he do with the ball? Most of the time he finds somebody. So I still think the game plan has to be more of an offensive game plan than it did. On defense, do what you always do. Pressure the quarterback, keep him in the lanes, play sticky defense in the secondary. On offense, you got to control the ball. It's got to be a running game all the way. And then you look for Freiermuth in the end zone. Look for Pickens on the outside. I think that's how they can win. Do I think they can win? I actually think they can win this game. Yeah. Kansas City, they're 14-1. They're not going to get it. They can't have an undefeated season, so there's nothing to play for there. They've all but wrapped up the number 1 seed.
Can you explain that to me once more? I think they can win this game. They're 14-1.
No. Maybe my internet glitched. What I was saying is I actually think the Steelers can win this game.
But the reason you gave was that the Chiefs are 14-1. What out of that leads you to believe it's a winnable game?
This is called gaslighting. For those of you who are unaware of this,
so essentially, what you're saying is they can't win them all. Is what you're saying?
That's exactly
right. They got to have a hiccup, right?
They don't have a whole lot. I hate saying this thing. We were saying this in a way before at the Eagles game. The Steelers don't have that win doesn't really matter. If there was a win that didn't matter to Kansas City right now, I would put it from a statistical standpoint. I would say it's this game because they are 14-1. Mahomes got injured a couple weeks ago. It's kind of like, do you really want to go 16-1 and then get it and Mahomes injured going into the playoffs?
If they win this game, they lock up home field and they can rest everybody next week. So I'd say they do want to win it.
Look, I don't think they don't want to win it. I'm just saying that I think at this point, yes, they can lock up home field throughout the playoffs no matter what. But there's a pretty good chance that even if that doesn't happen, that they're going to end up being, having home field advantage anyway because of how the playoffs shake out. I mean, they still have that shot. So this is a game where I think I think the Steelers can win this game because they have George Pickens back, and if they get the running game going. Okay, I'm done.
Woo! That was a lot. That was a lot.
Sure was a lot. Jesus.
I'm going to make it a little bit. I'm going to make this a little bit simpler on my end. I think there's only one way you can beat the Kansas City Chiefs, and it's at the game they used to play. It's the quick strike. It's a lot of scoring, it's got to be both on offense and on defense. I think if the Steelers can get a defensive touchdown early, get some quick scores, get up by 14 or 17 points, and make Mahomes try and come back, I think then that's when Mahomes makes mistakes. And if that doesn't work, I think there's another way you can beat them. Let the Kansas City Chiefs think they can run the ball and allow them to run the ball. Let them get 6 or 7 yards a rush. Get the ball out of Mahomes' hands and then make them kick the field goal. And then you play the touchdown game, and then you just outscore them that way. So I think those are the two ways you can actually beat Kansas City. I think it's a misnomer to try and rush Patrick Mahomes. He's like the 4th most sacked quarterback this year. He's got 38 sacks or something like that. And by the way, it's a long way from like Caleb Williams, who I think has been sacked like 60 times, a ridiculous amount of times. But I think Mahomes knows how to throw the ball under pressure. I think he's the best quarterback in the league still, even though he does dink and dunk. The only thing that I'm worried about, and I know this is going to happen 100%, you heard it here on the porch first, there will be some kind of stupid roughing the passer penalty. Mahomes will be running. Somebody will put a hand on him, and Mahomes will fall down and make it look like he broke his neck. And he'll be out there the next play throwing a touchdown pass, and they'll get 15 yards because of it. That's why I say, are you watching this shit? Because every game, the Kansas City Chiefs, it happened against Houston. Houston got a pick 6, okay? Yep. They got a pick 6 against Mahomes. We're about to take the lead, and what happens? Not only did they not get the pick 6, it was roughing the passer, and they got 15 yards on top of it. Kansas City goes down there and scores, and that was the end of the game. It happens all the time. It's this black magic that happens with Kansas City. I'm convinced that the NFL wants them in the Super Bowl.
Conspiracy.
And the Grand Schwalbini, I'm sorry your prediction of Kansas City going undefeated didn't turn out to be true. And I'm hoping that somehow Kansas City gets to 2 losses. I think that's the only way the Steelers can win. I don't know who's going to win this game. I think I had them losing in the preseason when we picked this game. I still think Kansas City probably ends up finding a way to win this frickin' game. What do you think, Mark?
Yeah, I'll take Kansas City, in a heartbreaker, winning with a field goal as time expires.
Oh, that would be so bad.
It's always as time expires for Schwaber. It's always as time expires. I'm telling you guys, I think Pittsburgh's going to win this game. They're not going to get, Mike Tomlin has changed my mind. I think he's a pretty damn good coach. And I think this is a game that means a hell of a lot to them. I think he wants to win this division. It was within his grasp. What actually happened is Pickens went down. He lost his best weapon on offense. They tried, but they just couldn't get over the hump in that Baltimore game. They had too much going against them with, Baltimore Baltimore, I think, would have won that game if they were 0-12, because it was just time for them to break that curse.
Yeah.
So I think the Steelers can win this game by playing tough, hard-nosed football. And I think Arthur Smith is the right guy for this, because if he really sticks to a run game and wears out that defense and keeps the ball out of Mahomes' hands, that's the key. The less they're on the field, the less potential they have to score and to wear down our defense. So,
I think the best potential for the Steelers winning are that Kansas City harkens back to last year when they play the Raiders on Christmas Day, and they lost to the Raiders on Christmas Day, and they still won the Super Bowl. So I'm hoping that they're thinking if they lose on Christmas Day, that will assure them a Super Bowl win later. So that's the kind of crazy stuff that I'm going to have to go to.
In all seriousness, though, the one thing that doesn't bode well is that's kind of what happened with Kansas City last year. They struggled down the stretch, and then they put it together in the playoffs. This year, they struggled about a month ago, where they were just barely beating teams with blocked field goals and stuff.
They won like 5 games in a row by one score.
Right. But the last couple weeks, it seems like they're actually starting to put it together now.
Yeah, unfortunately, I think you're right.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to our predictions. Last week, the Grand Schwab Beanie went 3-0.
Again.
TD actually went 2-1, and I went 1-2. So looks like TD and I are looking to somehow get to 500. Me going downwards, he going upwards. Schwaber is running away with it.
In all honesty, though, it's not really fair. I mean, it's not apples to apples. I mean, I've got spirits talking to me.
Yeah, it's true.
You know, you guys don't have that.
No,
well,
no.
Well, what do you spirits tell you about the Saturday night game, the Broncos at the Bengals? What do you think is going to happen? Hey, if you're still listening, send us your predictions down there in the comments. We'll get them up here. Grand Schwalbini's first because he's 3-0 from last week.
I will go the Bengals, the Tiger. I think they will win out. It probably still won't get them in the playoffs, but they got too much talent on the offensive side of the ball. I'm sorry, I can't believe in Bo Nix quite yet. So I'll take them at home in a must-win game. I'll go Bengals.
TD.
Yeah. Jeff, my buddy from York, he's going with the Bengals as well. I hate Sean Payton, so I don't want to pick for him no matter what. I think he's just a big smug asshole who got lucky with Drew Brees. I'm just telling you the truth. I mean, does he know more about football than me? Yeah, but I know assholes.
Yeah, he's making a lot more money too.
Every day in the mirror. Yeah, but he doesn't have a pirate ship outside of his balcony. Well, he might.
Well,
he
might.
He owns
Anyway,
4
he probably
pirate
does.
ships.
So you know what my pick is. I actually do think the Bengals are going to win this. They're playing at home. They're playing for their lives. They have a minuscule chance of maybe making the playoffs.
Yeah, something about Miami has to lose. There's
Yeah,
all kinds of weird
They have
scenarios.
they have a typical Pittsburgh situation right now for the playoffs that we've had the last few years. But anyway, I'm going with the Bengals at home.
Well, you know where I'm going. I hate the Bengals. I can't pick the Bengals. I'm taking the Broncos. I actually think the Broncos have lost their last two. They've kind of. I think they're a better team than they showed against the Chargers last week. I think they'll get it together and they'll find a way to beat the Bengals and punch their ticket to the playoffs. All right, next up, what do you feel about the 3-12 bowl on Sunday? You got the Titans at the Jaguars.
We're the only show on the planet that does this. I'm telling you right now.
Can anyone name the starting quarterback for both squads?
Yes, I can.
Is it Mason Rudolph for the Titans? Is he starting?
Yep.
And not Mac Jones. No, I can't.
Yeah, it's Mac Jones.
Is it Mac Jones still?
Yeah. Yeah. Still Mac Jones.
Okay, I'm going to ride the Mason train. I'm going Titans, big win on the road.
Oh, yeah, on the road. Well, is that going to really be a road game? Do they really have any home fans in Jacksonville left anymore?
I don't think so. I think all their fans are in London.
I think so. Yeah.
They're hanging out.
But you're going with the Titans. All right, Schwab Beanie.
Titans.
Yeah, I hate to go. You know what? The last time I went with Mac Jones, he disappointed me. So I'm going to go with Mason Rudolph and the Titans as well.
Yeah, that's going to be all three of us. I picked the Jags last week. If they can't beat the Raiders, they clearly can't beat the Titans. And the last game of the week, it will be the Sunday night game. We're going back to our roots. Sunday night, we got the Falcons playing at the Washington Commanders, coming off a big win against the Philadelphia Eagles. Who you got, Mark?
I got to go Commanders. I mean, there's no way in hell I'm taking Michael Penix in his second start at the Commanders, as well as Jaden Daniels is playing. I think this is not even a contest. 40-3.
I don't know. I mean, I again, the Commanders used to be my team when they were the Redskins. Bring back the damn name. Jeff is going with the Commanders, and he went with the Titans. But I did pick the Eagles to win last week, but that to me seemed like an easier pick. This to me is a harder pick. This would be the Commanders' 11th win. They would probably clinch a playoff spot, I think, if they win this.
They're already in the playoffs.
They're clinched. Oh, are they?
Yeah,
okay. I didn't see that part of the. I actually did watch a decent amount of the game down here, Schwaber, the Eagles Commanders game. I did not see the ending though, so I had no idea until the next day.
The Commanders. The only thing that's left for the Commanders is if they win 2 and the Eagles lose 2, then they could win the division.
No shit. Wow. Yeah. See, there's something about the ghost of Kirk Cousins that.
Well, he's not playing anymore.
He's on the bench.
I know, but it haunts me because they should have kept him. He is their number 1 and number 2 season record holder passing quarterback of all time.
They could get him back. They could get him back.
They don't need him anymore. So, all right. I'm gonna make a homer pick. I'm going with the Commanders. Jaden Daniels. I do think they're a better team. Penix, Schwaber's whole thing. So Commanders.
Well, it looks like I'm going to be wearing the 0-3 color because I'm going with Atlanta. And here's why I'm going to go with Atlanta. I think the Commanders are excelling a little bit from the big win. They're happy they're in the playoffs. I don't think they're 11. I don't think they're an 11-win team. I think they're a very good team, but I don't think they're that good. The Falcons have to win. They're tied with the Buccaneers in the NFC South. The Buccaneers lost this past week, and the Falcons won 2 in a row. Right now, the Falcons are on top. All they got to do is win out, and they win the NFC South. the pitiful NFC South, by the way. The Falcons,
Mhm.
the Buccaneers, the Saints, and the Panthers. Ouch. That's a terrible division. But that's why I'm going to go with Penix. I like the way he looked. He looked to me like a quarterback that didn't get too razzled, doesn't rely too much on the run. I do, by the way, I do love Jaden Daniels, and I believe I was correct, and Schwabini also picked this, that Jaden Daniels would be Rookie of the Year, Offensive Rookie of the Year, probably Rookie of the Year, period. Probably get some MVP votes at this point. I mean,
Why don't we just give him a Super
Sure.
Bowl trophy then? Let's just
no, you have to earn that one.
see what
so-
I think is funny about all this Jaden Daniels talk is that you guys are on the outside of this franchise for years and can probably see what I can't, which is I still see Dan Snyder in those smug little fucking sunglasses and that pudgy little body of his walking around flying his private jet everywhere. And I know the ownership is new and they've done a great job. And I also see the ghost of RG3, which is one great year and then nothing.
Although,
So it's
yeah,
kinda
well,
like-
I think that the other comparison would be CJ Stroud.
Yeah.
You know, how he was so awesome the whole first year and then he struggled in the second year. Although he's
Yeah.
coming back a little bit, but yeah,
I mean, I
you.
don't think there's anything wrong with having, like with RG3, it wasn't struggling the second year. His injury was mismanaged.
Right.
His career was mismanaged. They destroyed him. Now, is that going to be the case with Jaden Daniels? Probably not. You know, I mean, they've just got a better system in place now, and I think it's great for the franchise. So that's why I'm so skeptical. I believe that I don't think nobody thought they were an 11-win team, or nobody thought they were a 9-win team. Okay,
Right.
and now they're on the precipice of an 11-win season, maybe more because they play the Cowboys last, and you know, you never know. Do I think that's going to continue into next year? Absolutely not. They don't have a great defense at all. So they've got some things they've got to do. So, but I think they're going to beat Atlanta. I think they're riding momentum. But Steve thinks Atlanta's going to win. So we'll see.
I only say that because they have to win, and they're
Right.
playing for something. And typically, NFL teams that are playing for something play a more well-rounded game. They're a little bit more focused. You know, the other thing we should really talk about is the NFC North. How the hell can you have the Lions at 13-2, the Vikings at 13-2, and the Packers? They're currently in the 5th spot, and they're 11-4.
I know.
That's
like
just crazy.
Like, do you realize that? I'm not 100% sure on this, but could the Lions, who have been, you know, the 1 seed the entire year, actually like fall to like 6 or 7 if they lose their last 2 games? Could
Yeah.
they?
I think they could, unless the Lions beat the Packers twice, and then maybe they did. So I don't think they can.
No, they did. They did. That's right.
Yeah.
They did.
So
Yeah.
so they couldn't actually fall that far, but they would have to take the wild card, but they would get the
Right.
5 spot,
Right.
know,
Right. Yeah.
which is
it's crazy.
Yeah,
Well,
that is
'Cause
crazy.
they actually have 2 very losable games, I think, don't they? They've got at Minnesota is the last game, I think.
Let me see. I got it right here. This week they play. Let's see. Lions play at the 49ers, so they probably could win that, but they could lose it.
But they could lose it, yeah.
And the Lions in the last week play. Where are they? Raiders, Panthers. Here they are. They play the Vikings and the Lions play at Detroit the last game of the year. That could definitely be for the division, 100%.
Yeah.
Wow.
And for
That's
the
a
one
must.
seed.
That's a must pick for us next week, boys. 100% on that one.
how about Sam Darnold? I mean, that's just an unbelievable story. You know, I mean, he goes from literally a top draft pick to the Jets, where quarterbacks go to die, and he is resurrected on the trash heap of Minnesota after Kirk Cousins limps out of town.
Well, in Minnesota, who's their head coach? O'Donnell or something like that?
Yeah.
Mhm.
He's
Kevin
got to
O'Connell.
be. O'Connell, right? He's got to be coach of the year. I mean, to put
I
that
think so.
team to put that team back together like that. They've won 8 in a row at this point. I think they're the most.
Yeah.
I think they've got the longest win streak of any team left in the NFL right now. That's amazing since the Eagles lost, because I think they had a 10 or 11 game win streak. Yeah. That's just amazing. I think what Minnesota's doing up there is just that'll be fun to watch that last game of the year. Hopefully we won't have to be watching the Steelers.
All right, boys. So why don't I do a little what you're watching or where you're watching us podcast call here, and then I got to hit the beach. The Pirates are waiting for me.
Okay.
How about that?
Since you're the guy, what were you watching? What have you been watching?
No. I mean, well, okay, yeah, we'll do that. Why not?
Yeah, why not?
I exercised my unselfish watching, and I watched The Greatest Heights that you watched on Netflix.
Oh yeah,
I don't have the graphic up about the Bitcoin thing.
Yep,
and Razzlecon. Right.
Yep.
And honestly, I'm like, it was dumb. Like what? they didn't even say that they proved that they were the ones that stole everything, although they did, and then they bought gift cards. You know, I mean, you're intelligent.
Well, for their wedding, they bought gift cards for all the guests.
Right. But you're intelligent enough to somehow, and they think maybe the dude's father is the one that actually did the hack. I think that's more of a likely scenario than the kid, because if you're smart enough to hack into Bitfinex and steal what ends up being $5 billion worth of Bitcoin, you're smart enough to figure out how to cash that shit out, and also smart enough to like move to Greece. Okay. And these guys didn't do that. They just farted around for years, just like buying little shit here and there, and like couldn't figure out how to cash out. I mean, there's more to this story, I guess is what I'm saying, than this 90-minute documentary lets on, because there is no way that these guys were smart enough. It's some white girl going like, you
didn't like her rapping? You didn't like her rapping?
Listen, first of all, I don't like rap.
She raps just like Schwaber does. I mean, you know.
Well, I did see some similarities there. I don't like rap music, and if I'm forced to watch it or listen to it, I would like there to be a competent artist on the other side of the camera or the microphone. So anyway, so that being said, if you're watching us live right now, you're watching the Sports Porch, the Black and Gold edition, all over the world on Facebook, YouTube, and X. And of course, I'll drop the podcast right after the show on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or anywhere you get your podcasts. You can always visit our website at theporcheslive.com, theporcheslive.com.
theporcheslive.com.
All right, I'm guessing HJ is coming up next, and you guys are going to fart around for a little more, and I'm heading down to the beach.
All right. We're getting rid of you now, TD.
Enjoy yourself.
See you when you get back, brother.
Happy Hanukkah.
You
Joe X Noel. I think we should get to some hockey. What do you think there, Schwaber?
Sure, Jesus. Bring us down to, well, remember when it used to be the igloo?
Yes, the old igloo. Actually, well, I can't say it out loud because it's a gift I got for my son, and he's probably listening right now. So, but I did get something related to that.
Nice.
For him for one of his Christmas gifts. But
Very nice.
The Pittsburgh Penguins are pretty hot right now.
Yeah. So try to explain this to me now. And look, I'm just going to and I think you were recognizing it as well. I mean, at the start of this season, this Penguins team was actually just really awful. I mean, they started, I think they started one game, they were down 6-0 in the first period.
That was the Ranger game. Yep.
Yeah. I mean, they have had some horrendous outings, but then all of a sudden, I don't know when it started. I'm just going to say maybe in the last 10 games or so, or 12 games or so.
Yep. About 10, 12 games. You got it.
They're pretty much, I mean, with a hiccup here or there, they're really flying around and winning pretty much all the time. It's like, it's kind of like a miracle.
It's a Christmas miracle that the Pittsburgh Penguins are trending for 84 points at this point, after at one point trending at 52 points for the season. That was kind of the bottom. That was actually the whole way back versus Minnesota around game 10, 11, 12, somewhere around there. Mm-hmm. And since that time, I think a few things have happened. One, they got rid of a veteran guy in Lars Eller. that was kind of a signal to all the other veterans, like, hey, you don't need to be here. We can get rid of you at any time. I think
Mhm.
that was a good move by Dubas, just to kind of basically shoot a prisoner, just say,
Mhm.
hey, if we can and he was at the time, remember, he was one of their best players.
Yeah, he was playing
And
pretty well.
yeah, so I think and by doing that, they were able to bring up some younger talent, and really there were two guys that are instrumental from the offensive side, other than Sidney Crosby's line, and but the first line has been the best first line somebody said this, in all of hockey. They have the most amount of points of any line in the NHL. The Sidney Crosby line, which is pretty amazing because Crosby only has, let's see, he got 3 points. He got a 4-point night, so he's got like 39 points on the season. So he's trending for his typical 1 point,
Per game.
1 point per game. He'll be over. I'm unless he
Mhm.
gets injured. There's always the potential for injury. That line has been great, but there are two guys, Blake Lizotte and Phil Tomasino. Those guys have really kind of solidified the glue guys, as we call them, on the second and third line. Gino's always going to center the second line, but Bunning there with Tomasino and sometimes Lizotte, they've been very good. And then when Lizotte sometimes play on the third or the fourth line, it doesn't matter. Everywhere he goes, that guy touches the puck. He's just a wrecking ball. He's full of speed and energy, and he really kind of gives that third and fourth line the spark it's needed. And lately, it's been Michael Bunning. Oh,
Yeah,
and
he's
most
playing
and most
really well.
yeah, mostly on the power play too, because you know why? He stands in front of the friggin' net.
Mhm.
and
Right,
and
right.
nobody else is really willing to do that on this team. And I think that's kind of been the key. That combined with um, they're not I was going to show this on a video, and I still may do it. Um, they're not pinching their defensemen, all the defensemen, nearly as much as they have.
Yeah,
And
there's been much fewer breakaways.
none of them are pinching down into the corner. If they're pinching, they're only pinching down to the dot. They're only coming
Mhm.
down halfway. They're not going into the corner. They're not jumping in on plays. And I think that's smart because that Philadelphia game last night, I think it hinged upon one time when the Flyers on a shorthanded had a 3-on-1, and they didn't capitalize on it because Jari made a key save. Jari then passed the puck up the Sid, and they got a goal immediately right after that.
Mhm.
That's been the difference with this team. They're not playing that much different other than the defensive play. They've just been getting key saves at good times. I still think the goaltending's not very good. Jari, I believe, last night he was like 889. He wasn't even at 900
Right.
from the save percentage, but he's getting those timely saves, and that's something
Right.
Philadelphia did not get last night.
Oh,
They
no, my God.
timely saves,
Mm-mm.
and that just helps the team, go into a free fall, and I think that's what happened to the Flyers last night. And no offense to you, Mark, but I love to see it.
I know, I know.
But that's the first time they played him. I was happy Mitchkov was a -3. That made me happy too. I know, we joke about Mitchkov,
Well,
those
well,
sorts
we
of
got
things,
we
but
got to start wondering about Torts though. Like
yeah,
he's I mean, he gave him 11 minutes last night.
yeah,
I
that's
mean,
not enough. Mitchkov's
no,
got to figure it out, and he's got to be on the
right.
ice figuring it out. I think he's a much
Exactly.
better player. I would play him with Konechny or Couturier. I don't know who he's
Yeah,
playing him with, but
exactly. When he was on fire, he was playing with Konechny,
yeah.
So
I
you
think
play
I think that's definitely the key for the
right.
Flyers. They'll figure it out. I think it's probably this is the problem that I have with the Pittsburgh Penguins. I want to see them succeed. I absolutely want to see them in the playoffs, but that doesn't help us for the future. But I would
Right.
rather see Sidney Crosby in the playoffs at least one or two more times before he hangs up his skates, because I think if he gets into the playoffs, he single-handedly, well, you can't single-handedly do anything in the playoffs. So him alone isn't going to be able to do it. But they've gone through some rough times, and I think that will help this team into the future.
Yep. Yeah. I'd see for me, it's the complete opposite. Like after watching last night, I'm like, okay, trade Lawton, trade Frost, trade Farabee. Let's get a top 5 pick, and let's come back next year and let's get a goaltender.
Yeah. I think your goaltending will be fine, but Harrison last night was absolute garbage.
Yeah.
And once again, happy to see it. Well, I think it's time to play the music, Mark.
All righty. Let's go Steelers tomorrow.
That's right. You got the Pittsburgh Steelers playing Christmas Day. They got the first game, but you got to stick around for the second game.
Thank God it's on at 1 o'clock, right?
1 o'clock game. I don't think it really matters. 1 o'clock, 4 o'clock. You're not doing anything tomorrow, right?
Well, they're having dinner.
Who cares?
You don't want to interrupt the dinner.
We tend to have the lunch. I think it is that.
Oh, there you go.
Well, you sports fans, thank you for joining us. We'll be back on Monday, our regular time. And until then, I say Merry Christmas. Oh,
and Happy New Year. Oh, cool. That's time to say that.
And jablocks.
All righty.